Dr. Jalan, for this fiscal, Pranab Mukherjee had a very ambitious target that he had set for himself, 40,000 crore rupees. Of course, various routes are now being tapped, be it the auction or be it the FPO, which really never took off for the big ticket PSUs. But do you think for next year he will be more realistic, or will he go whole hog and perhaps revise his divestment target upwards?
I think we have a tremendous opportunity just now to divest, and it should be done in a major way, not losing public control. You see what I mean? I mean, you can still have the public majority, the majority of the public sector. But in terms of divestment, there is no reason why you should have 100% of every unit or 75% of the unit. If 51% gives you all the rights that you have, and at the same time makes you more accountable to the public, it's good to reduce your shareholding to 26% in certain products, 51% in other products. So divestment is a great opportunity. And I don't think there is any political or opposition of any strong kind to this. There may be, left-wing opposition or something, but that's not important. And it doesn't have to affect employment, by the way, or labor. You don't have to fire people because you are divesting. You are divesting, that gives you an opportunity to invest more, to raise capital, and therefore I am all in favor of doing the best you can.
But Dr. Jalan, we cannot ignore the reality of the fact that markets have been very volatile, and which is why the government perhaps has been a little too cautious before going in for big ticket divestment.
No, but that is never a good time, and markets are always volatile. You go back 3 years ago, the markets were at 20,000 or something. Today, if they are at 17,000, we all are very enjoying it a lot. So you do it. There is no. You may choose your products differently. So don't go by what you call the aggregate Sensex. Go by the product. Go by the company. Go by what is the market value of that company. And if you go in that way, I'm absolutely sure that we will get good value for what we are divesting.
Swami, what do you make of the entire divestment process? What has really been achieved against the targeted revenues from divestment has been rather dismal. The government is, of course, tapping the auction route. Do you think this can be a permanent process of doing divestment, or do you think this is a one-off case and the government will perhaps get back to doing the whole FPO thing like they used to in the past?
As far as divestment is concerned, the market conditions have been very bad. The markets were down until the other day. They have now suddenly risen so much that it is, to my mind, entirely feasible to raise the kind of money he was talking about by March 31st, assuming the markets stand up. You can't guarantee that, but you can have a stab at it. So even if he can't raise the full 40,000 crores, in my view, he can have a stab at raising a significant amount. For the next year, again, it depends on market conditions. If they continue to improve, if the Eurozone thing does not return, if the United States economy continues to improve, then the market conditions will improve and you could have a fair amount of divestment. The other big plus you might get for next year is that if there's once again a fresh auction of 2G, that will then raise some additional money. How much, I'm not sure, but it could be significant.
We also do not know when those 2G auctions will happen, but Dr. Acharya, you've got two sides of the debate. Swami believes market conditions are very relevant and divestment should take into cognizance those market volatile conditions. But Dr. Bimal Jalan believes that markets will always be volatile. It's your own product that counts, and so you should go ahead with the big ticket divestment. Where do you stand on the whole divestment debate?
Supriya, on divestment, frankly, I'm not a huge proponent of divestment per se, if it is not actually going to be a strategic divestment in the sense of giving up government control over a company. Because I think otherwise, it is just, it doesn't really, in a sense, to my mind, seriously help the fiscal situation. Because if people are going to shell out their money to buy shares in a government company, that means they'll have less money available. So in a sense, it's like the crowding out effect of a fiscal deficit. As regards timing, I think volatility is a very real issue. I would agree with Swami on that. And volatility of markets, that is. Markets have been volatile this year, and that's no doubt been an important constraint. Frankly, I think markets will probably continue to be volatile in the coming year, and therefore will probably continue to be a constraint.
Dr. Jalan, India Inc. in its many representations to the finance minister has been very vocal about the whole stimulus steroid. They do not want the stimulus steroid to be withdrawn, the one that was given in difficult times about 3 years back. They in fact now want a new steroid given the whole uncertain and economic gloom around the world. What do you make of this? Do you buy the argument at all?
No, I buy the argument about, say, if you were to stimulate infrastructure investment. Certainly. If you were to stimulate investment in essential commodities, certainly. If you were to stimulate investment in areas that the country requires, certainly. But I think if you are stimulating subsidies, or if you are stimulating tax exemption, when the rich in India pay one of the lowest rates in the world, do you know that? The country of 100 billionaires, the average tax paid by the billionaire would probably be lower than the tax paid by the driver. So is that the country that you want to have? So I think you have to choose, pick and choose. And those of us who are able to pay more should pay. But it doesn't have to cut the essential expenditure.
All right, I am going to get the focus back on the core question, and the question is about should India Inc. be given another dose of steroid like they have been asking for in their many representations to Pranab Mukherjee. I know, Swami, you don't agree with this, do you?
I don't buy the part of the industry argument at all. It is a ridiculous state of affairs if you cannot have industrial growth without constant fiscal stimuli. I mean, that itself is a symptom that something is very, very seriously wrong in your policy structure. If your policy structure is wrong, fix that. Don't say let us continue with that faulty structure and then try and bail out by having constant fiscal giveaways. No, we need to have much stiffer fiscal consolidation right now. That should be the priority of this budget. And if there are problems on the other policy sides, please fix those separately.
Swaminathan Iyer always likes to call a spade, don't you? Before we wrap up the show here, let's quickly go to each one of our panelists and talk about the 3 things they would want Pranab Mukherjee to do in Budget 2012. Dr. Shankaracharya, let's begin with you. What is your budget wish list, the 3 big things that you would want the Finance Minister to do on the 16th of March?
I think he has to focus on a credible fiscal correction, since the deficit is way too high and has to be brought down if he wants to do something good for inflation, something good for growth. Secondly, I think he needs to give some idea of how the investment climate, which has deteriorated quite drastically in the last 2 years in my view, the investment climate in India can be improved, and what concrete actions that the government proposes to take to improve that investment climate. And thirdly, I believe he has to also, in some sense, revive the reform bandwagon, however modestly.
All right, credible fiscal management, investment climate and the reform bandwagon. That's the 3 budget wish lists from Dr. Shankaracharya. Dr. Bimal Jalan, what's your budget wish list? What does it make of?
No, I can't, I don't want to count. But fiscal deficit is certainly one of the most important issues for budget making. I mean, that's the responsibility of the Finance Ministry, and that has an impact which has, what you might say, much wider ramifications. You know, if you start a new scheme, if you start subsidizing, closing those subsidies is difficult. We may announce the right things, but the real issue is for you to watch whether we do it. And as you can see, we announced a fiscal deficit target to be reduced, for fiscal deficit to be reduced this year, but it hasn't happened. So what we have to watch is what we do, not what we say.
All right, walk the talk, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, is the word coming in from Dr. Bimal Jalan. Swami, I'll have you have the last word on this because I know you've got some innovative suggestions for our Finance Minister. Go ahead with all of those.
First of all, I would say just focus on this window of opportunity. Say that this is your last chance to get your fiscal house in order. So just go for it in a big way. The second thing I would say was, think again on things that were unthinkable. Why are you having such an enormous tax on cigarettes and nothing on bidis? Yes, I know you do have the bidi king, Mr. Praful Patel, in your cabinet, but that shouldn't be the deciding factor. Please, why don't you tap this source of revenue? It's so easy and it's so justifiable simply on the ground of being a health hazard. See, I mean, if you look for some new ideas, if right now betting on horse racing is legal, why don't you make betting on cricket legal? we are told that there are bets of 15,000, 20,000 and 100,000 crores going on. So in England, you find that betting is legalized of various kinds, and you collect the tax of 15% or more. Why don't you just go ahead and do this? I said, there are some ideas which would be new, and they could yield a lot of revenue, sustainably in the long run. So let's go for some new ideas as well.
New innovative ideas completely out of the box by Swaminathan Iyer. I'm very certain Pranab Mukherjee is indeed listening to this debate when eminent panelists like you are talking about it. Thank you very much for being with us on the show. A final word then on Budget 2012. This is Pranab Mukherjee's last chance to rise to the occasion. The world is watching. India Inc. is waiting with bated breath for March 16th. It's over to Pranab Mukherjee to carry out the biggest fiscal exercise of 2012.